Hello, welcome to Matt Loves Eurovision. So this is my Eurovision 2022 thoughts on the jury voting irregularities. Please do click on the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and like, share, and certainly comment below. I thought I'd do a really quick, hopefully quick video about something that's just been sort of come out today. I'm recording this and some more information. There had been some stuff around it, just around the grand final itself, was around some issues of voting regularities and some countries not having their actual jury scores being used in an aggregate an aggregate score done for them instead. And there was a number of thoughts about a number of stories were coming out about what had happened there, and talk of there being voting irregularities in semi-final 2. And the countries weren't named, although you could work out which ones they were. And so there was a lot of speculation on that. And as I promised in my grand final review, I'd said if you want me to talk about particular things, someone mentioned about the jury voting irregularities. And lo and behold, EBU provided a statement today, and quite a detailed one. They really I think in the old Cersei, choosing violence or going nuclear, depending on how you see it. But they certainly came out very, very strongly and given a lot of detail of what happened. So very, very briefly, it turns out that there were 6 countries' juries that were showed to have irregular kind of voting in the sense that they voted, all 6 voted for the other 5 very high up in their jury rankings in semi-final 2, so much so that it was noticeably different from the pattern of other countries. So it wasn't just coincidence. And the EBU put out a really, if you look on Eurovision.tv, they actually kind of show just how clearly that statement, how that comes out. In that, I think in the case of 4 of the 6 countries, they had the other 5 as their top 5. One of them had its top 4, and another one in 6th or 7th, and the other one had it top 4 and one at 5, or one at 6 or something like that. But otherwise, really, really close. And the EBU decided, in partnership with their scrutineer, I think, that looks at these things, they noticed this and felt that because it was on such a scale, they obviously disregarded those jury votes in semi-final 2 and used the kind of the algorithm aggregated score that they do in those situations where there's a problem with the jury, and then felt it was because it was so extensive this year, or certainly it was shown to be so extensive this year, that they would not count those juries in the grand final, but did not make that publicly announced. They didn't announce that in advance. I think maybe they were waiting to see what happened and see how they voted, and to see whether, having obviously with them not knowing about it, those juries not knowing about it, whether that made a difference. Anyway, I think that was, and that's why on the night of the show it was a bit odd that you suddenly had a couple of countries not giving their own points. That's probably because the TV company or the people involved refused to read out results that were not of their jury, and were given the kind of aggregated results that they were told, which is all part of the EBU's rules. These are rules that are agreed by all of the reference group, which represents all the countries. So yes, I think it's been a really bold step, but a really welcome step by the EBU. They clearly have felt that they have to step in and say something clear. I'm glad this has happened. I wonder, you wonder how long this has happened for. There have been kind of rumours in the past about, certainly on the televote side of things, one case, which I'll mention in a moment. And you always do have countries that tend to vote for each other. I mean, but I don't think that really is kind of jury rigging. That is where you get neighbourly voting. So, you always get Cyprus. If Cyprus and Greece are in the same semi-final, they will give each other 12 points, both in televote, mostly or almost always in televote, and almost always in the jury. But it's not the level of collusion that this was. Now, the 6 countries involved the 6 sets of juries were San Marino, Montenegro, Romania, Poland, Georgia, and the 6th one may not surprise you because it was this country that was implicated in a 2013 televote scandal Azerbaijan. Now, that isn't to suggest that certainly the artists, I think, will probably be completely uninvolved. Probably there's no indication that the delegations were involved in this, and there's not even an indication that necessarily the broadcaster, the individual country broadcasters were necessarily aware. But the EBU have given this opportunity to put this to the various broadcasters, who of course have reacted furiously, or some of them have reacted furiously, and in fact the Montenegrin one has come out and protested against what the EBU's put out, even though what they put out is extremely strong evidence. I don't think that's particularly wise on the Montenegrin broadcaster's part. But so yes, you do wonder how long this has gone on for. Maybe this was just the scale of it, or maybe because we have a new kind of executive producer of Eurovision, which is Martin Österdahl, as opposed to Jan Ola Sand, that he is taking a much harsher and publicly harsher role in this. Does leave some questions. I'm sure there's going to be more to come out of this. Now, I'm very clear. My view is that the juries are really, really important to have a jury vote, because if you went back to 100% televote, you would go back to what I think is one of the worst periods of Eurovision in terms of fairness and a spectacle, because televote just clusters around certain neighbourly voting, cultural and neighbourly voting. It's not to say that it's wrong that happens, but it's so skewed when it comes to televote. And also the live performances really suffer, because there's less incentive to sort of, nail vocals and stuff like that. And, there's some ropey vocals, I think, in those times when it was televote only. I think you might agree. So I do think the juries are really important to have that 50% jury. Probably the jury system needs some kind of review, overhaul. I don't know what that might be. Some people said, you should increase the size of the jury, which would work for big countries maybe, and you can see that kind of then flattens out bias or the opportunity to do this kind of collusion. But the small countries, where are they going to get enough people every year if you rotate round if you're going to make it a jury of some kind of connections to music or performance or something connected so that they can actually make a professional judgment. I've heard that Ukraine obviously won. Their jury did not give points to Poland, their neighbours, their very close allies, and all sorts of things. And they're saying, well, we're going to do an open jury, and so people can apply, and we'll do a ballot and stuff. And surely that's just going to reflect a televote almost, or it's going to be a slightly skewed way. So I feel that keeping the sort of that professional level of the juries is important, because they will pick up on, techniques and, and things that someone's doing really well or maybe not doing so well in a way that necessarily the televote wouldn't necessarily pick up on. So yeah, I'm still a big believer in juries, but there is obviously some work to do about what happens now. What happens to those countries as well? What happened? I imagine there's going to be investigation and discussions with the broadcasters. As I say, there's been no blame laid at the door of the broadcasters or of the delegations. So people saying, we'll chuck them out, perhaps is a little bit premature, and I'm not sure that is necessarily going to do the contest much good. But it's obviously great that the EBU have jumped on this, but it would be good to see if we can prevent it happening or as much as possible in the future. And so I think that the EBU will be having discussion. The reference group, which includes all the delegations, will have a discussion, I'm sure. So we'll have to wait and see where the jury, where this goes next, or if there's any other twists in the tale. It'll be interesting. Anyway, I'll be back to talk about those when they happen. But for now, obviously, drop your comments in the comments below if you've got anything to say about it. And I'll be back soon. I will do my next video. I will just do a general look at how the third semi-finals went, not including, as much as I can, the jury irregularities. Although, as it turns out, after all of that, it wouldn't have affected the qualifications of the 10 qualifications that did come from 72. So anyway, I'll look at those in a bit later, but kind of without ending up talking all about the jury irregularities. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and see you soon.